Under the dim moonlight by the Rio Grande, darkness conceals a fierce battle. This is the story of Sergeant Marcus Black Warrior Freeman and the Delta Force, the silent heroes facing off against the drug cartel Los Lobos. A shipment worth $50 million, enough to ruin countless lives, is waiting to be destroyed. But will they be able to stop Eduardo El Diablo Vargas, the man who always slips away like a ghost? Imagine standing there, your heart pounding, as gunfire shatters the night. Freeman, with burning courage, leads the team through danger, each step a heartbeat of hope and determination. From the deserts of Tucson to the shores of Long Beach, every mission is a life-or-death challenge, where camaraderie and loyalty are forged. Have you ever wondered what you would do when faced with evil? Join us as we dive into this thrilling journey. Comment right away to share your feelings. Do you think Freeman will win, or will Vargas continue to hide? Don't miss out, because this battle has only just begun. In the darkness along the Texas-Mexico border, where the Rio Grande flows gently, yet conceals dark secrets, the moonlight casts an eerie glow over a desolate area where the drug smuggling group Los Lobos operates. They have turned this place into their territory, with trucks loaded with drugs and armed guards ready for any attack. Sergeant Marcus Black Warrior Freeman, the captain of Delta Force, stands by the river, his eyes sharp as a hawk, watching every move of the enemy. At 38, Freeman had dedicated his entire life to his country, and now he was leading an elite team on a mission to destroy a $50 million drug shipment. They knew that if they didn't stop Los Lobos, this poison would be distributed everywhere, wreaking havoc on the lives of countless innocent people. About 100 yards from the target, Freeman signaled for his team to move forward, each step light and silent like a ghost. As his team got closer, they spotted a large truck. This was the shipment they had to take out. But soon after, a guard with an AR-15 noticed strange footprints. The quiet scene was instantly shattered by gunfire. Freeman immediately ordered his team to respond. The roar of M4A1 fire echoed in their ears, blending with the sound of AK-47s from Los Lobos. Every bullet carried the weight of life and death, and every second was a relentless battle. Freeman, with the warrior blood coursing through his veins, quickly grabbed the HK-416. He aimed and fired at the two guards, the gunshots echoing in the darkness, taking them down before they could react. But amidst the chaos, a familiar figure emerged. Eduardo El Diablo Vargas, the leader of Los Lobos. Vargas was not an easy foe to defeat, and in the moment of turmoil, he managed to slip away, leaving the Delta Force team with a bitter sense of failure. Although a part of the mission was completed, this failure was unacceptable. Freeman reported on the situation, his voice dropping heavy like stones. "We took down 2 of them, but Vargas got away. We couldn't destroy the shipment." A sense of disappointment spread through his team. It wasn't just the failure of the mission, but also the worry about what would happen next if Vargas continued his operations. They had left a trail leading to San Diego, where the dark alleys of crime could bring these bad guys closer to their targets. As the dawn light began to break, chasing away the shadows of night, Freeman stood in the middle of the battlefield, his heart heavy with turmoil. He knew this fight was not just a simple raid. It was an endless battle against dark forces. The emotions within him surged like a sine wave, rising to the peak of action and then dipping down, but never truly stopping. With renewed determination, he vowed not to let Vargas slip through his fingers again, for this fight, in the end, was not just for himself, but for all the innocent lives suffering the consequences of drug traffickers. The gray sky looms over Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home to the Delta Force, a place where only the strongest can set foot. Freeman, a 20-year-old with big dreams and a not-so-bright start from Detroit, stands at a familiar vantage point. where memories of his challenging journey begin to resurface. In 2005, when life in Detroit was riddled with hardships, Freeman made the decision to join the military, leaving behind the muddy streets and dreams that seemed like they would never come true. The image of Captain James "Iron" Thompson, the strict yet dedicated trainer, flashed in his mind. With his tall stature and a face etched with the wrinkles of experience, he guided Freeman and his teammates through unimaginable obstacles. During the training days in West Virginia, where the blizzards howled and the winds screamed, Freeman faced a life-or-death challenge, surviving 72 hours in the harshest weather conditions. The biting cold winds felt like knives against the skin, and the heavy snowfall obscured everything around them. Yet he and his teammates refused to give up. Freeman vividly remembers the moments when they had to trek through dense forests, covering distances of up to 5 miles, with the frigid trees looming over them and branches slapping against their faces like unexpected punches. Ben, known as David "Ghost" Lee, Freeman's closest friend, was always by his side during the toughest times. They faced hunger and cold together, strategizing and sharing jokes to chase away the biting chill. Their strong bond turned harsh moments into unforgettable experiences. As the snowstorm passed, the moment of truth arrived. Freeman stood before his target 875 yards away, gripping his M24 rifle, a rush of excitement surging in his chest. He had been trained to handle pressure, but he had never felt tension like this before. The image of Thompson flashed in his mind, looking at him with eyes full of hope, as if passing on strength to him. Freeman took a deep breath, regained his composure, and aimed. Time seemed to stand still, the sounds around him fading into the background. He could feel the rhythm of his heartbeat, his focus laser sharp on the target. A loud bang echoed, the bullet flew, and the target fell. A wave of exhilaration washed over him, pride and joy filling his heart. But alongside that was the realization that this journey had only just begun. When he returned from training, Thompson called him the Sinpari Warrior, a title that was not just a compliment but also a heavy responsibility. Freeman understood that he had overcome challenges not only physically, but also spiritually. The journey from a young man in Detroit to Delta Force was not just about training, it was also a process of self-discovery. That day, as Freeman received his Delta Force badge, pride swelled in his heart. He looked around and saw his teammates, the ones who had endured snowstorms, hardships, and moments of joy alongside him. They were not just comrades, they were family. Together, they had written a chapter in their lives that no one could ever erase. It was not just a badge. It was a symbol of the efforts, dreams, and sacrifices. Freeman knew that the road ahead would hold even more challenges. But now he was ready to face anything. With the Delta Force badge on his chest, he had become part of something greater than himself, and his journey was just beginning. Long Beach Harbor, one of the largest ports on the West Coast, stretches along the Pacific Ocean, where massive ships dock, bringing in goods from all over the world. The bright sunlight glimmers on the water's surface, but beneath that sparkling facade, an undercover war is raging. A battle not just between good and evil, but a fight for the survival of innocent lives. Delta Team, an elite unit of JSOC, has received an urgent order to stop Los Lobos, the notorious drug cartel, from distributing a massive shipment of cocaine through this port. Sergeant Ryan "Hawk" Mitchell, a seasoned marksman, stood on the old truck of the team, his sharp gaze scanning every movement of the containers. Private Maria "Viper" Lopez, a tech expert, was continuously monitoring the data on her computer screen, searching for any signs of trouble. She knew that every second counted, that each moment could be a pivotal one, where courage and intelligence shone through in the most vivid way. Freeman, a member of the team, felt the tension in the air, but inside him, a thrill surged. a feeling that only those who live in a dangerous world could truly understand. When the intel from the surveillance team came in, the whole squad sprang into action. A suspicious container had been identified, and their mission was to track it and gather evidence. On the I-5 freeway, stretching 10 miles, the drug-laden truck was speeding away at breakneck speed, and the tension within the team was rising. Hawk gripped the M249 tightly, bracing for the worst-case scenario. The roar of engines echoed, blending with the sounds of the bustling city outside. Freeman couldn't wait any longer. He decided to jump onto the container where millions of dollars worth of drugs were hidden away. Gunshots rang out, bullets whizzing past their heads like venomous snakes. Freeman felt the cold steel as he gripped the edge of the container, every second feeling like a fight for survival. He saw the Los Lobos gang, their fierce faces firing back. Hawk criticized him the moment he saw Freeman take the risk, but there was no time for arguments now. Freeman had discovered 660 pounds of cocaine, an enormous amount, enough to change the lives of thousands. In that tense moment, everything seemed to slow down. Each gunshot, each breath of his comrades, each heartbeat of Freeman blended together, creating a symphony of life and death. The faith in his teammates, the courage and the determination to protect the innocent ignited a fire in their hearts. Hawk, witnessing Freeman's bravery, decided to step in, firing back at Los Lobos' henchmen, giving Freeman the chance to complete his mission. As the chase reached its peak, the team realized they were not just battling a drug cartel, but also confronting their own fears, memories, and tough decisions. It was a fight that was as much about the mind as it was about the body. When the gunfire finally ceased and everything fell silent, the Delta team had gathered enough evidence to dismantle Los Lobos' operations. They sat down to analyze the results, beads of sweat still trickling down their foreheads, but in each of their eyes shone a sense of pride. They had accomplished what so many others wouldn't even dare to dream of. The mission has ended, but its effects still linger in the minds of each member. Freeman, despite being criticized for his recklessness, knows that what he did was not just a mission. It was about protecting innocent lives, safeguarding what they were truly fighting for. Hawk, having witnessed Freeman's bravery, has come to realize that sometimes you have to take risks to achieve something greater. Maria Viper Lopez, armed with the data in hand, has laid out a new plan for the upcoming battles, determined not to give Los Lobos a chance to resurface. Life in Long Beach goes on, but the Delta soldiers are always there, quietly protecting and fighting. They are not just warriors. They are heroes in the eyes of the innocent, those they strive to protect. They know that the battle is far from over, and they will always be ready for the next mission, to continue writing their own story, a story of courage, sacrifice, and faith in the good. In the bone-chilling cold of the abandoned warehouse in Chula Vista, California, every little sound echoed like the growl of an approaching storm. A faint light seeped through the cracks in the walls, illuminating a dark corner where Morales, the captured man, sat on an old wooden chair. His breath came in ragged gasps, his eyes wide with panic as he looked at Freeman, who stood before him with a face as cold as ice. Freeman, a seasoned former CIA operative, calmly approached Morales. He knew that time waits for no one, and his mission was to force Morales to reveal the location of the Vargas farm in Tucson, Arizona, about 120 miles away. Freeman had endured brutal interrogations before, but this time felt different. Perhaps it was the tension in the air, or the very lives of those waiting for information from him that hung in the balance. "Listen up, Morales," Freeman began, his voice deep and steady. "We don't have much time. If you don't tell me about Vargas's farm, not just you, but your whole family will be in danger." His gaze locked onto Morales, making him feel like he was standing on the edge between life and death. Hawk, Freeman's partner, stood in a corner of the warehouse, unable to stay quiet. We can't keep using these methods forever, Freeman. He won't talk if we keep pushing him like this. Hawk's voice was tinged with unease, as if he was more worried about Morales' life than the mission itself. But Freeman remained unfazed. He simply shook his head and continued to focus on Morales. 120 miles, he repeated like a mantra to drill the information into Morales' mind. Just one address, one tiny clue, and you'll be free. Morales looked around, his eyes filled with worry, but the resilience in his soul was not easily broken. I don't know anything, he repeated, his voice weak. But Freeman was not easily swayed. He had prepared for this situation. Viper, the third member of Delta Team, stepped closer, her gaze softening. She knew that in certain situations, gentle persuasion could be more effective than force. Morales, I understand that you're scared, but think about your family, the people you love. They're waiting for you. Viper's voice was filled with empathy, like a glimmer of light in dark days. Morales seemed to be wavering. He looked over at Viper, hesitation clear on his face, but suddenly Hawk broke the silence. We don't have time to play mind games, Viper. If he doesn't talk, we won't be able to hit Vargas's farm in time, Hawk said, the tension in his voice making the atmosphere even heavier. Freeman sensed the tension among the team members. He needed to keep everything under control. Hawk, shut it! We won't accomplish anything if we don't work together. Morales, let us know. We can help you. He continued, his voice still firm, but a bit softer. And at that moment, Morales let out a long sigh as if his patience had reached its limit. All right, he whispered, his voice barely holding any life. I will talk. The farm in Tucson, you have to believe me. His gaze swept around, as if searching for reassurance about what he was about to say. Freeman quickly jotted down the information, but deep down he knew that the battle had only just begun. The plan to raid the Vargas farm had to be executed immediately, before anything could change. The team received orders from JSOC, and the pressing urgency weighed heavily on their shoulders. They had to act swiftly and efficiently. As Freeman and Hawk continued to argue about tactics, Viper stood by, filled with anxiety. Everyone knew they would face unimaginable dangers at the farm, but no one could have guessed that this tension was just the beginning of a much tougher battle ahead. With the information from Morales in hand, they prepared to hit the road. The headlights of the car illuminated the path leading out of Chula Vista, and Freeman's mind was filled with chaotic thoughts about what lay ahead. They were ready for battle. But could they save the innocent from Vargas's grasp? A mix of excitement, tension, and a hint of anxiety churned within them as the car sped toward Tucson, where their fate awaited. The journey has just begun, and they know there's no turning back. They must fight, not just for the mission, but for what they believe in. Inside Freeman, a burning determination rages like a fire that will never go out. At Fort Huachuca, Arizona, where the blazing sun of the Sonoran Desert blends with the heavy air of responsibility, Delta Team is gearing up for a crucial mission. This military base is not just a special operations training center, it's a forge for resilient soldiers. Freeman, a soldier with a heart of steel, stands in the training yard, his gaze fixed on the horizon, where vibrant clouds begin to dissolve under the intense sunlight. Freeman leads his training team, which includes Hawk and Viper, teammates with whom he has shared both tough moments and glorious victories in fierce battles. Together, they analyze data from the ISA about the Los Lobos farm, located about 120 miles from the base. This information isn't just numbers, it's their lifeline, the pieces of a bigger puzzle they must complete. Standing in the middle of the desert, Freeman felt the tension in the air. He thought of Ghost, a friend who had sacrificed himself on a previous mission. A wave of pain and longing surged within him, but he knew he couldn't let those memories weaken his resolve. With every beat of his heart, he vowed to protect the remaining teammates, refusing to let anyone endure the suffering they had experienced. Colonel Robert Spectre Hayes, the commander of JSOC, entered the meeting room with a serious demeanor. He looked each team member in the eye, as if he wanted to convey a powerful message. "We will capture Vargas," he declared, his voice booming like thunder. Vargas was the primary target in this mission, and capturing him would not only be a success for the team, but also a significant step forward in the fight against crime. Freeman and his team had been rigorously trained to handle extreme situations. They checked their gear, including the HK-416 rifles and Glock 19 handguns, weapons they were as familiar with as their own hands. Meticulous preparation was the key to ensuring success in every mission. As they assembled their weapons, they didn't just think about the mechanics. They also considered what lay ahead, the dangers lurking in the shadows. As the MH-6 Little Bird helicopter took off, the entire team felt a rush of excitement and anticipation. At an altitude of about 5,000 feet, they were treated to a breathtaking panoramic view of the wilderness below. But it also heightened the sense of danger. Every leaf, every tiny stone beneath them was a part of the journey they were about to embark on. In the cramped space of the helicopter, stories and laughter filled the air. But there were also moments of silence as they exchanged glances, each person fully aware that they were living in each precious second. As the helicopter flew over the mountains and valleys, Freeman couldn't help but think about what awaited them ahead. A mix of anxiety and determination swirled within him. He knew they were fighting not just for themselves, but also for those who had fallen and the families waiting for their return. Memories of Ghost burned like a fire in his heart, igniting his faith and resolve. As the plane began to descend near the Los Lobos farm, Freeman looked out the window, taking in the lush green fields and the tiny houses below. They had arrived at the place where everything would unfold. The moments before stepping out of the helicopter were crucial, a turning point for them all. They were soldiers, fighting for a cause, and now they would not only fight for the mission, but also for those who had fallen. As everyone stepped out of the helicopter, a suffocating tension filled their hearts. They were ready, but no one could predict what was about to unfold. Freeman took a deep breath, feeling the chaos within, but knowing he had to stay calm. The whole team moved slowly, one step at a time, like silent shadows gliding through the fields. As they approached the farm, everything unfolded quickly and unexpectedly. Team Delta faced surprise situations, life or death decisions that had to be made in an instant. Freeman felt as if time had stopped. Everything moved slowly, yet was filled with tension. His gaze met that of his teammates, each look conveying a message that needed no words. Finally, when they confronted Vargas, a notorious criminal, everything became incredibly tense. It was a battle not just between the factions, but also a struggle within each soldier, between fear and courage. Freeman thought about Ghost, about the promises he had made, and in that moment, all the memories and powerful emotions surged within him. He knew that this was the time to prove himself, to complete the mission. The battle raged fiercely, but within Freeman, a tremendous strength had awakened. They were not just soldiers, they were guardians of ideals, carrying a heavy responsibility. And as the final light broke through, they knew they had accomplished their mission, not just capturing Vargas, but also upholding their faith in what they were fighting for. In the vast expanse of the Tucson, Arizona sky, where gentle breezes caressed the golden sand dunes and the parched earth, a military Night Stalker's aircraft streaks through the air at a terrifying speed. Team Delta, made up of 4 seasoned warriors, is gearing up for a special mission. They're flying at an altitude of 10,000 feet, surrounded only by fluffy clouds and the shimmering light of distant stars. Freeman, the team leader, stands at the open door of the aircraft, his sharp gaze trying to take in every detail of the scene below. Hawk, a seasoned soldier with countless successful jumps under his belt, stood beside, feeling each beat of his heart sink with the whisper of the wind. Viper, the team's tech expert, double-checked the night vision goggles, NVG, on his helmet as the tension in the air mounted. They had trained for this moment, but no one could foresee what awaited them below. Freeman signaled to everyone, and the atmosphere turned eerily silent. They were ready for the halo jump, a technique only the most seasoned warriors dared to attempt. When Freeman shouted, "Go!" they leapt out, their bodies gliding through the crisp air. Everything around them began to blur as the free fall accelerated. But in Freeman's mind, the image of the farm they were about to infiltrate was crystal clear. With each passing second, the excitement soared. They were free-falling, feeling as if time had come to a standstill, with only the sound of the wind howling in their ears. Freeman could clearly feel the weight of the mission on his shoulders. The team had to land safely 2 miles away from the farm, and everything depended on their accuracy. The image of the desert stretched out below, with patches of parched earth and small shrubs, made it feel like they were gliding over a vibrant painting. As the altitude decreased, Freeman ordered the team to activate their parachutes. In an instant, the sensation of free fall transformed into the lightness of floating in the air. They landed safely, but the tension still hung heavy in each person's heart. Freeman, with the calm demeanor of a leader, directed the formation and reminded everyone to remain silent. The entire team understood that this mission was not just a simple infiltration, it was a fight for survival. Delta Team moved like lightning across the desert, their footsteps leaving no trace. The light from their NVG illuminated the dark paths, allowing them to see everything around them clearly. Hawk led the way, his eyes scanning quickly ahead, from the piles of rocks to the bushes where enemies might be hiding. Viper stayed close behind, keeping his gear at the ready. Freeman was in the middle, like a brave commander, guiding the team closer to their objective. As they approached the farm, a tense atmosphere enveloped them. The sight of the small, tidy house with its white walls, along with the old truck parked outside, painted a picture of tranquility that was laced with danger. Freeman commanded them to stop, and the whole team took cover behind a large rock, straining to hear every sound around them. The wind blew softly, but within them, each breath felt heavy. Freeman observed carefully. "Silence! Quickly!" he reminded the team. They knew that just one small mistake could lead to failure. Freeman sensed his teammates' anxiety, but he also understood that his calmness and decisiveness were the keys to guiding them to success. As night fell, everything seemed to grow quieter. The Delta team moved closer to the farm, each step as silent as a ghost. They were getting nearer to their target, and a surge of excitement welled up inside them. Freeman quietly signaled to Hawk and Viper, guiding them to the best positions to prepare for the raid. The crucial moment had arrived, and they knew there was no time to hesitate. The air was thick with tension, but it was also in those moments that the bond among the team members grew stronger. They all understood that, no matter what happened, they would stand together, fighting for one another and for the mission they had chosen. Freeman took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the desert surrounding him, and in his mind a strong determination emerged. They would never turn back. In the dim light of morning at the Los Lobos farm, about 20 miles from Tucson, towering concrete walls loomed like a modern fortress, creating a stifling and tense atmosphere. Surveillance cameras whirred continuously, like invisible eyes tracking every movement. Freeman, a seasoned agent, stood with his Delta team in the shadows, a rush of excitement and determination swelling within him. Opposite them were Hawk and Viper, close teammates, each carrying their own mission but united by a common goal: to dismantle what was hidden inside. In just a few seconds, the sound of the C4 explosion shattered the peaceful morning, blowing the farm gate apart and sending concrete debris flying. The fighting erupted, gunfire ringing out like a symphony of life and death. Freeman quickly charged in, his HK-416 in hand, with a range of up to 200 yards. He took careful aim at a guard standing frozen in place, taking him down with a precise shot, leaving him no chance to call for help. Next to Freeman, Hawk quickly sprang into action, moving like a shadow, using his close-quarters combat skills to approach and take down the remaining enemies. Freeman's gaze never left the moving foes. Every step they took could spell death for him and his teammates. Meanwhile, Viper, with his computer hacking talent, had infiltrated the farm's camera system, disabling the watchful eyes and creating an opportunity for the team. When Vargas, their commander, triggered a hidden mine in the area, the team quickly split into small groups to handle the situation. Each person had their own task, but Freeman and Hawk unfortunately found themselves trapped in a dark, cramped bunker with no clear way out. The air in the bunker was tight and suffocating, the musty smell of dampness mingling with gunpowder creating a heavy atmosphere. Freeman looked at Hawk, the determination in both of their eyes unwavering, even as they faced danger. They knew that time was not on their side, and every second that passed could determine their fate. They sought a way out, but each step had to be carefully calculated. For outside, the gunfire still echoed, and their enemies were still hunting for them. At that moment, Viper and Vargas were trying to draw the enemy's attention by creating another explosion on the other side of the farm. They fought together. Every second ticking away was a battle not just to protect themselves, but also to rescue their teammates in trouble inside. The bond between them grew stronger than ever, like an invisible thread pulling them closer together, no matter the danger. As memories of the past and beautiful moments together flooded Freeman's mind, he felt a surge of energy, urging him to find a way to escape this place. He and Hawk worked together to open the hatch, using every last bit of strength they had, and finally discovered a small opening just big enough to get out of there. The outside light was blinding like a call to action, and they rushed out, only to witness the chaos unfolding. Gunfire echoed all around. Blood flowed like a river, but there was no time to panic. Freeman and Hawk quickly joined the fray, feeling their courage bolstered by cherished memories and an unbreakable friendship. In that moment, they realized they were not just fighting for the mission, but for their very lives and the lives of those they loved. They couldn't afford to fail, couldn't let the enemies gain the upper hand. The rhythm of the battle surged like a dramatic score, every second filled with suspense and tension. Freeman knew this was their moment, the moment they had to prove their strength and resilience. As the war dragged on, the memories of the times they faced hardships together, the laughter and tears, forged a strong bond between them. Freeman and Hawk were not just teammates. They were true friends who had weathered every challenge side by side. They fought for each other, and with every bullet that fired, their determination grew even stronger. The battle at the Los Lobos farm was not just a fight against the enemy, but also a struggle against themselves, a quest for life and hope in their darkest moments. They knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, friendship and loyalty would always guide them, like bright beacons in the storm. Beneath the ground of the Tucson farm, a cramped and dark space unfolds, where life and death are just a breath apart. This 30-foot-long underground tunnel, designed to hide dark secrets, has now become a battleground for Freeman and Hawk. Two brave yet solitary warriors caught in the storm of war. The air here is suffocating, thick with the scent of dampness and gunpowder, and the tension wraps around them like a heavy blanket. Freeman, with a determined look in his eyes, gripped the knife tightly in his hand. Each step he took echoed like a battle cry. Even though the space was cramped, his agility and resolve brought him closer to his target. Facing him was a mercenary from Los Lobos, a ruthless man with a cold gaze. When the distance between them shrank to about 10 feet, Freeman had no other choice. He lunged forward, the knife glinting in the dim light filtering through the cracks in the ceiling of the bunker. The close combat scene unfolded in a flash. Freeman dove in, weaving through the punches and kicks of his foe. His mind was consumed by a single thought. He had to take this guy down to protect himself and what little he had left. With a powerful thrust, Freeman drove the knife into the soldier's hip, blood splattering on the cold ground. The enemy collapsed, eyes wide in shock as death loomed near, while Freeman gasped for breath, adrenaline surging through his body. As everything unfolded, Hawk, Freeman's companion, was up high, hidden in a strategic position 100 yards away. He took aim, focusing on the remaining enemies who were poised to attack Freeman. Under the pressure of time, Hawk adjusted his sniper rifle, feeling the tension of every passing second. He couldn't let his friend be in danger any longer. A loud bang echoed. The bullet shot out like a flash of lightning in the dark, slicing through the air and striking one soldier in the head, causing him to drop to the ground. Freeman heard the gunfire, knowing that Hawk had his back. A wave of safety and hope washed over him. He turned around and saw the remaining enemy in a panic, and with newfound confidence, he charged into the fray. There had been times he felt alone, but now, reuniting with Hawk had reignited the fire of determination within him. They were a team, and nothing could stand in their way. As the battle raged on, a voice echoed from behind. It was Viper, another member of the team, who had arrived just in time to lend them a hand. He pointed to an old wooden door in the corner of the bunker. They knew that was where Los Lobos kept their secret stash of weapons. Their future depended on whether they could seize this armory or not. Freeman, Hawk, and Viper opened the door together, revealing a massive weapons cache filled with neatly arranged firearms. Their eyes lit up at the sight of the RPG-7 and M249, the very weapons they needed to take on the mercenaries. An exhilarating rush filled the air as they assembled these arms, gearing up for the next battle. They understood that this would be the decisive fight, a clash that could change everything. As they prepared to leave the bunker, Freeman felt a fresh strength within him. He was not just fighting for himself, but for his friends, the ones who had stood by him in this battle. The underground bunker beneath the Tucson farm, once a hiding place for dark secrets, had now become the starting point for a new fight. They stepped outside, the sunlight shining on their faces as if a new chapter was unfolding. They were ready not just to fight, but to survive, to change the fate of themselves and those around them. The battle raged not only in the trenches, but also in their hearts. They had conquered their fears and loneliness, and now they stood united as a team. With every step they took and every bullet fired, they carried the dream of a brighter future. They fought and would continue to fight, not just for themselves, but for the ones they loved. On the road ahead, nothing could hold them back. They were warriors, and this fight had only just begun. In the dark setting of a farm in Tucson, the dim light from the hanging bulbs creates a tense atmosphere. Freeman, a veteran with bright eyes and steely determination, stands at the foot of the stairs. His breath is steady, intertwined with the powerful rhythm of his heartbeat, as he hears the frantic sound of footsteps racing up the wooden stairs. It's Vargas, the man Freeman is hunting. Vargas, a notorious criminal, is all too familiar with hiding and knows how to escape any situation. Freeman didn't hesitate. He charged up the stairs like a bullet. Each step he took felt like a challenge, the 20-foot distance seeming endless, but in his mind, there was only one goal: to capture Vargas. Suddenly, gunfire erupted, a bullet whizzing past and slamming into the wall nearby, making Freeman flinch. The guards, hired to protect Vargas, weren't going to let him get close to his enemy easily, but Freeman wasn't backing down. He drew his Glock 19, a weapon he had mastered through relentless practice. With a range of 50 feet, he took aim, firing a shot at the guard who was pointing his gun right at him. The guard fell, and Freeman felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The tension in the air was sharp enough to cut with a knife. He kept climbing, knowing that every second counted. When he reached the rooftop, the bright light of the moon illuminated every corner, allowing him to see Vargas getting ready to make a run for it. A helicopter was parked on the rooftop, its engine roaring like a wild beast waiting for its master. Freeman took a deep breath and charged at Vargas. But suddenly, a bullet struck his shoulder, sending a sharp pain coursing through him. A burning sensation spread throughout his body, but he wouldn't allow himself to fall. Instead, he felt anger and determination rising within him. He pressed on with unwavering resolve, despite the bone-deep pain. Vargas turned back, seeing Freeman still standing strong, a sneer of disdain spreading across his face. He seemed unable to believe that someone as injured as Freeman could still chase after him. But deep down, Freeman felt that the pain couldn't dampen his determination. He could feel the warmth of blood trickling down his hand, but that only fueled his resolve even more. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for those who had fallen before him, for the victims of the crimes that Vargas had committed. Freeman poured all his strength into taking another shot. The sound of the gun echoed, and this time, the bullet struck Vargas in the leg. He fell down, confused and furious. Freeman immediately rushed forward, not giving the enemy a chance to escape. The light from the helicopter reflected off his determined face. Not far away, the remaining guards realized what was happening and started to rush over, but Freeman quickly cut them off, preventing them from helping Vargas. The battle unfolds in a tense moment, where time seems to stand still. Freeman has to make the most of every second to gain the upper hand. Like a lone wolf, he refuses to back down. With a powerful punch, he takes down another guard, then turns to face Vargas, who has gotten back up. Despite his injured leg, he struggles to crawl toward the helicopter. Freeman had no time to think. He needed to act immediately. With a swift motion, he drew his gun and aimed directly at Vargas, just a few steps away. In that moment, everything seemed to freeze, with only Freeman's breathing and the sound of the helicopter's engine filling the air. He knew that just one shot could change everything. But when he looked into Vargas's eyes, he saw a fear he had never seen before. He didn't want to die. He wanted to live. Freeman's heart raced. He was not just a man seeking justice, but also a man standing on the edge of life and death. He couldn't let himself become a killer. He lowered his gun, a tough but right decision. Despite the pain and exhaustion, Freeman chose to hold back his anger. He called the guards over and ordered them to arrest Vargas. For a moment, he felt like a winner, not because he had killed him, but because he had maintained his humanity. As Vargas was taken away, Freeman stood on the rooftop, the moonlight shining on his face, like a promise that no matter how fierce the storms may come, he would stand strong, never giving up. On the rooftop of the deserted farm, where the evening sun was fading, Freeman stood firm like a statue, his sharp eyes tracking the Los Lobos helicopter circling above. The thundering sound of the rotor made his heart race. But not out of fear, rather, it was fueled by determination. He knew this was the pivotal moment, the place where everything would be decided. With a Glock 19 in hand, Freeman poured all his strength into a precise shot from 75 feet away. The distance between him and the pilot felt like just a heartbeat. Yet it carried the weight of a lifetime. As the bullet flew out, time seemed to stand still. Freeman felt every heartbeat, every gentle breeze brushing against his face. The bullet hit its mark, the pilot collapsed, and the helicopter spiraled out of control, plummeting like a wounded bird. Watching that scene, a wave of satisfaction surged within Freeman's soul. But that moment didn't last long, as Vargas, his arch-nemesis, appeared like a storm. Vargas, with bulging muscles and a gaze full of hatred, charged at Freeman. The fight was inevitable. They grappled bare-handed, each punch and kick echoing in the stillness of the rooftop. Freeman felt the fatigue in every muscle, but his determination wouldn't let him stop. Finally, with a powerful strike, he overpowered Vargas, sending his enemy crashing to the ground. Vargas's hands were cuffed, and Freeman let out a sigh of relief. This victory was not just a fight. It was a release from the pain that had built up for so long. But there was no time to rest. Viper, Freeman's trusted teammate, stood off in the distance, his eyes sparkling with determination. He was ready to take down the massive drug stash, which held 2,000 pounds of illegal goods. Viper held a C4 in his hand, a powerful weapon capable of obliterating everything within a wide radius. Freeman and Viper exchanged a knowing glance, then quickly moved toward the warehouse. When they arrived, a suffocating and tense atmosphere enveloped them. Freeman felt a flutter of excitement in his chest, but at the same time, a glimmer of hope was blossoming within him. They weren't just destroying a stash, they were liberating innocent lives from the nightmare that drugs had brought upon them. Viper signaled and began to set the C4 in place. Freeman stood guard, his eyes glued to any shadow that might appear. As soon as Viper finished the job, there was no time to waste. "Let's go!" Freeman shouted, and both of them dashed out of the warehouse. They had barely run a short distance when an explosion erupted, shaking the very air around them. Blinding light and thick clouds of dust filled the space. Freeman felt the force of the blast push them forward, as if the entire world was collapsing around them. As the smoke gradually cleared, they found themselves in an empty space, where nothing remained but the debris. Freeman turned back to look at the farm, a place where painful memories had once been intertwined with his life. They had won, but the cost was significant. He knew that life would never be the same again, but at least they had done the right thing. The whole team quickly left the danger zone, but each person felt a deep sadness within. They had fought not just for themselves, but for those who had been lost in this battle. Freeman looked into Viper's eyes, and then they walked together toward the light. A new journey awaited them, a journey to heal and rebuild, even knowing that the memories would always linger. In the Tucson desert, the dawn slowly breaks, painting the vast sand dunes in golden hues, creating a scene that is both majestic and serene. Delta Team, made up of seasoned soldiers, is moving in an armored vehicle, transporting Vargas, the captured one, back to base. The vehicle rolls over the parched dirt roads, kicking up clouds of dust that blend with the rising sunlight, crafting a breathtaking picture amidst the desolate desert landscape. Hawk sat next to Freeman, his eyes filled with sadness and regret. In the quiet moment, he turned to Freeman, his voice dropping as if the weight in his heart was finally surfacing. He apologized to Freeman for not being able to protect Vargas better. A teammate, a friend with whom they had weathered countless storms. Freeman looked at Hawk, his gaze softening. They shook hands, a handshake that was not just a gesture of sympathy, but also a deep understanding between soldiers. In their eyes there was unity, a determination to never give up. Freeman gazed out the window, letting his soul drift along the undulating sand dunes, where memories of victory intertwined with the pain of defeat. He recalled the fierce battles, the moments teetering on the edge of life and death, and the fleeting seconds of happiness when a mission was accomplished. The desert, with all its brutality, was also a keeper of unforgettable memories. His heart swelled with pride as he thought of his team, those who had fought together, overcoming every challenge. Meanwhile, information was sent from the JSOC Command Center. They confirmed that the mission was a success, and capturing Vargas was a significant step forward in the fight against the enemies of the nation. This news came like a refreshing breeze amidst the sweltering heat of the desert, lifting the spirits of the soldiers. They had fought hard and emerged victorious, and now, with Vargas in their grasp, they could hope that their efforts would lead to a brighter future. The vehicle continued to roll forward, covering the 10-mile stretch as a journey that was not just about reaching the finish line, but also a spiritual quest. With each mile that passed, their hearts raced more intensely, not just from the thrill of victory, but from the bond shared among the team members. They were soldiers, but at the same time they were close friends, having endured hardships and storms together. In that moment, Freeman felt a deep connection with Hawk and the other soldiers. They were not just teammates, they were family. The memories of the tough days began to fade away, making room for dreams and hopes of a brighter future. As the sunlight poured down, the Delta team approached the base. Under the blazing sun, the site of the base emerged, a safe haven after long days of fighting. Everyone in the team felt a surge of joy, yet deep down, each person carried a weight of concern. They knew the battle was far from over and the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But it was precisely that knowledge that made them stronger, more united. Freeman turned back to look at Hawk, then glanced at the faces of his friends around him. They had faced every challenge together, and now they would continue to move forward together. Delta Team was not just a military unit. It was a symbol of friendship, courage, and perseverance. No matter what lay ahead, they would always stand by each other, continuing to fight for their ideals, for their country, and for one another. As the vehicle entered the base, the dawn light illuminated everything around them, like a promise of the good things waiting ahead. In that moment, Freeman knew that despite the tough challenges that lay ahead, they would always stand strong together. That was the power of friendship and determination, the force that would forever guide them in the battles to come. Ultimately, this withdrawal was not just a simple mission accomplished, but a milestone marking a new journey, a beginning filled with greater hopes and dreams. That day, the sky over Fort Bragg, North Carolina, was a bright blue, reflecting the hopes and memories in the hearts of the soldiers. The ceremony at the JSOC base was underway, where acts of valor and sacrifice were being honored. All eyes were fixed on Freeman, a soldier who had endured countless fierce battles and now stood before hundreds of comrades, a gleaming gold medal waiting for him. Colonel Hayes, the seasoned commander, stepped up to the podium, his voice warm yet filled with pride. "Today, we honor Freeman, one of our heroes." Freeman felt a thrill in his heart, but what weighed on him even more was the responsibility for the fallen comrades. When his name was called, he stepped up to the podium, his gaze sweeping over the crowd where familiar faces were present, including Hawk and Viper. They had shared the toughest moments together on the battlefield. As the medal was presented to him, a moment of silence passed, and then Freeman declined, lowering his voice. "My teammates are the real reward." Those words resonated like a melody, not just the voice of a soldier, but the heartfelt expression of someone who had lived and died alongside his friends. After the ceremony, Freeman left the base, his heart heavy with memories. He decided to visit Ghost's grave, the comrade who had sacrificed his life in the bloody battle. Ghost's grave was just a mile from the base, but each step felt like an eternity, as if time and space were testing his patience. The bright sunlight seemed to shine directly into his soul, bringing every memory flooding back. Freeman recalled the laughter, the tough moments they had faced together. He promised Ghost that he would never forget, that he would continue to fight for the ideals they both believed in. When he arrived, Freeman knelt by the grave, his heart heavy, not just from the pain of loss, but also from the immense responsibility he felt. He placed his hand on the headstone, sensing Ghost's presence wrapping around him, a reminder of the great sacrifice. "I will carry on," he whispered. "I won't let you down." Silent tears fell, but they weren't a sign of weakness. They were the strength of a soldier who had found his purpose in the midst of pain. As Freeman stood up, he noticed Hawk standing in the distance, his friend's gaze searching for answers. Freeman walked toward Hawk, feeling a mix of hesitation and a strong determination. They had once been close friends, but misunderstandings and emotional storms had driven them apart. Hawk looked at Freeman, his eyes filled with sadness and indelible memories. "I'm sorry about what happened," Hawk said, his voice trembling slightly. Freeman nodded, understanding that they had both endured their own pains. But now, they needed to heal. "We've lost so much, but we still have each other," Freeman said, feeling a weight lift as the wounds of the past began to mend. Hawk stepped closer and wrapped his arms around Freeman, as if they were reclaiming a long-lost part of themselves. In that moment, amidst the sunlight and memories, they found peace within their hearts. Under the blue sky of Fort Bragg, where soldiers have sacrificed and friendships have been tested, Freeman not only recognizes the value of the gold medal, but also understands that camaraderie is the greatest reward of all. They have faced challenges together, and now they stand strong in life together. The memory of Ghost will forever live in their hearts, like a flame that never goes out, guiding them on their next journey. Freeman closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and felt the strength of those who had passed. He knew that, despite the challenges ahead, with his friends by his side, they would fight not just for themselves, but for those who had sacrificed so much. "We can do this," he said, his eyes filled with determination. And in that moment, under the North Carolina sun, a new chapter of their lives began, full of hope and strength. At the Fort Bragg boot camp, where the air is thick with sweat and determination, the recruits stand in formation, their eyes filled with eagerness and anxiety. Among them is a young man named Freeman, who has just arrived from Detroit to embark on his challenging journey. Freeman is not just an ordinary recruit, he is a symbol of perseverance and resolve, a living testament to overcoming all prejudices. Freeman stood in the middle of the training field, the sunlight shining down and highlighting his features, a face full of confidence, bright eyes sparkling. He looked over at the recruits, who were nervously preparing for their shooting training. They were all very young, some barely 18 or 19. But in their eyes, the desire to become part of the Delta Force was undeniable. Freeman recalled his own feelings when he first stepped into this place, the mix of excitement and the fear of the judgments he had to face. "Do you guys know?" Freeman began, his voice warm and deep. "When I was in Detroit, people often told me that I couldn't do this. They said I wasn't strong enough, not smart enough. But I decided not to let those words shape my future." He paused, allowing his words to sink into the minds of the newcomers, like a rising tide, gentle yet powerful. Freeman continued, "Today we're going to practice shooting with the M4A1. Its range goes up to 300 yards. That's not just a number, it's a challenge we need to overcome. Every bullet you fire isn't just about hitting the target. It's about defeating yourself, overcoming what others think of you." He emphasized each word, as if every sentence was woven from the experiences of his own life. As the recruits assembled their rifles, Freeman moved step by step, guiding them on how to adjust the stock, how to aim, and how to feel the weight of the gun in their hands. "Remember, nothing is impossible if you have perseverance," he said, his eyes shining like flames. "With every shot, imagine you're breaking through the limits that others have set for you." The atmosphere grew tense as each recruit stepped up to the firing line one by one. They aimed at the target in the distance, about 300 yards away, where not only a physical target awaited, but also the anxieties and judgments they had to confront. Freeman stood nearby, watching their every move, a gentle smile on his face, proud of what they were striving to achieve. A rookie, with trembling hands, aimed at the target but couldn't pull the trigger. Freeman approached, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "Take a deep breath, and remember that no one is born perfect. It's the mistakes that will help you grow." The rookie nodded, took a deep breath, and fired. The bullet flew out, hitting the target, and the entire range erupted in applause. Each bullet that flies out is not just a step forward in shooting skills, but also a step forward in the journey of self-discovery. Freeman watched as each recruit grew more confident, their eyes lighting up when they realized they could overcome anything. He smiled with satisfaction, proud to see these young people breaking through the barriers of their own minds. As the training session came to an end, the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue across the space. Freeman stood on the steps, watching the recruits joyfully share their small victories. He knew that while the road ahead was still long, today, they had taken a significant step forward. Remember, every time you feel like giving up, think about why you started, Freeman reminded them, his voice filled with strength and emotion. The recruits looked at him intently, as if they were hanging on to every word. They saw not just a trainer, but a role model, an inspiration for their own lives. Freeman smiled, a wave of indescribable emotion swelling within him. From Detroit to Fort Bragg, from prejudice to triumph, his story was not just his own, but that of everyone who dared to stand up and fight for their dreams. He knew that each recruit would carry the lessons of today into their lives, and that was what would truly empower them in the future. And so, Fort Bragg is not just a training ground. It's the starting point for new journeys, a place where dreams begin to soar, where every recruit can become the hero of their own story. Freeman stood there, the warm golden glow of the afternoon sun shining on his face. And in that moment, he knew he had inspired the next generation. In the heavy atmosphere of the meeting room at JSOC, Fort Bragg, the bright lights reflected off the tense faces, mirroring the urgency in the air. Freeman, a seasoned veteran, sat at the conference table, his gaze fixed intently on Hayes, the team leader. Every second felt like a minute, the wait stretching on endlessly. The atmosphere was charged, as if anticipating a storm, when Hayes began to speak about the new mission. "We have an urgent mission," Hayes said, his tone serious but tinged with a hint of worry. "A terrorist group has emerged in the Middle East, linked to Los Lobos. They plan to attack strategic targets, and we need to stop them before it's too late." His voice rang out like a warning bell, making everyone in the room sit up straighter, their eyes fixed on him, creating a tense atmosphere. Freeman felt his heart pounding harder, a mix of excitement and anxiety coursing through him. This was the mission he had been waiting for, but it was also a battle that couldn't be taken lightly. Los Lobos was not just a name, it was a symbol of brutality, and tracking them down wouldn't be easy. As Hayes emphasized the importance of gathering intelligence, Freeman sensed the urgency in every word he spoke. Everyone in the room understood that this mission was not just a job, it was a fight for survival. Suddenly, a soft beep echoed from Freeman's phone. He quickly glanced down and saw an encrypted message. A rush of excitement surged through him, making it hard to focus on everything happening around him. This message could hold crucial information about the target, and he knew that decoding it would be the key to unlocking the door to success in this mission. Freeman hurriedly opened his phone, the blue light from the screen reflecting off his tense face. He scrolled through the characters, trying to make sense of the coded message. Every second ticking away felt more precious than ever. As he decoded the message, images of innocent people who could be affected by the terrorists began to flash in his mind, filling him with a heavy sense of pain and responsibility. This wasn't just a battle against evil, It was a fight to protect the lives of countless innocent souls. After decoding, Freeman felt a momentary sense of relief. He held crucial information in his hands, but time waits for no one. He quickly got to his feet and headed for the door. The Delta team was getting ready to board the C-130, about half a mile from the conference room. A rush of excitement and determination surged within him. He knew time was of the essence. His footsteps echoed like the beats of a heart, driven toward justice and the protection of the innocent. As he stepped out of the meeting room, the air outside felt even heavier. Freeman could hear the roar of the planes and the bustling activity of the preparation team. He saw his teammates focused, each one carrying a steely resolve. They were not just soldiers, they were protectors, fighting for peace and safety for humanity. The determined faces, the bright eyes, all were looking ahead, ready for whatever was coming next. Freeman walked quickly, the half-mile distance to the plane becoming a journey of mind and spirit. Each step was a promise to himself and those around him that he would not give up, that he would do everything possible to stop the evil. As he approached the plane, the roar of the engines sounded like a cheering anthem, reminding everyone that this was not just a mission, but a cause. As Freeman stepped onto the C-130, he felt the presence of his comrades beside him. They were all brave soldiers, ready to sacrifice for a noble cause. The atmosphere inside the plane was tense, yet filled with hope. They knew this mission was not just a challenge, but also an opportunity to prove themselves, to protect what was most sacred. Freeman sat down and looked around, seeing familiar faces. They had all been through many battles together. Each person had their own story, their own reason to fight. And now, they were all united for a common goal. A fire was burning in each of their hearts, readying them for a battle not just against the terrorists, but for humanity itself. As the plane took off, the thrill returned. Freeman silently pondered what awaited them ahead. This battle wouldn't be easy, but he knew they wouldn't be alone. They had each other, and that was their greatest strength. What they would face wasn't just enemies, but challenges that tested their courage and perseverance. But one thing was certain. They would not stop fighting, nor would they stop hoping, until the light of victory shone through the darkness of terror. Fort Bragg Military Airport, where the chilly winds sweep through the green grass, carries the breath of great missions and unfulfilled dreams. Freeman, a resilient soldier, stands tall beside the C-130 aircraft, his gaze reflecting determination and courage. The grueling days of training, sleepless nights, and memories of his comrades have forged him into a true warrior. As the sunlight breaks through the clouds, painting a vibrant picture across the sky, Freeman ascends the stairs leading into the airplane. Each step he takes seems to sync with the breaths of the soldiers gearing up for their next mission. The roar of the aircraft engines fills the air like a powerful anthem, igniting within him a strong sense of purpose and duty. He remembers those who sacrificed everything for the ideal of freedom, and his determination flares up more intensely than ever before. The camera slowly panned away from the C-130, focusing on Fort Bragg Hill, where the 200-foot hills rose majestically against the vast sky. Everything around seemed to freeze, leaving only the sound of the wind and the engine, creating a quiet yet tense atmosphere. A bold message appeared on the screen. The next mission awaits. It was a reminder for everyone that ahead lay a battle not just for themselves, but for the ones they loved. Freeman stood by the airplane door, gazing into the distance. Memories of his parents, who had always supported him in his toughest choices, flooded his mind. They had taught him about courage, perseverance, and the spirit of never giving up. In that moment, he felt their love and support as a source of strength, fueling his soul with renewed energy. But it's not just memories. There are worries, too. Will I be able to return safely? Can I complete this mission without causing any greater consequences? Those questions swirl in my mind, like waves lapping at the shore. Freeman has experienced some of the most desperate moments, when his teammates were no longer by his side. The pain of those losses will follow him for the rest of his life, like scars on his soul. The rhythm of the airplane began to accelerate, and Freeman felt the power of military technology as it soared into the sky. It was an exhilarating feeling, but it also carried a sense of anxiety for the unknown. In that moment, he felt as if he were on top of the world, where anything could happen. Fluffy white clouds drifted by, and the sunlight shone on his face, like a sign of hope. Freeman is not just a soldier. He is also part of a larger family, a community he has chosen to protect. Each teammate has their own story, their own reasons for standing up and fighting. He thinks of Sarah, the girlfriend he left behind, with their video calls between them. They promised to reunite, and he will do everything he can to keep that promise. As the plane soared higher, emotions surged within Freeman. He thought of his dreams not just to be a soldier, but also to be a husband and a father someday. He didn't want his loved ones to live in fear, and that drove him to complete this mission, no matter the cost. All of this created an inner strength, making him feel like he could overcome any challenge. As the plane soared high, Fort Bragg slowly became a tiny dot in his view. It felt like the whole world was waiting for him, with the unknown ahead. Freeman knew that the next mission wouldn't be easy, but he was ready. With determination in his eyes, he resolved that no matter what happened, he would never look back. The plane glided through the clouds, and in that moment, everything seemed to pause. Freeman slowly closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and felt each beat of his heart. He wasn't just flying toward a mission. He was soaring into the future, where a new chapter in his life could begin. And in that instant, he knew that everything he had gone through would guide him to where he needed to be. As the plane continued its journey, the image of Fort Bragg began to fade. But in Freeman's heart, the memories and love remained steadfast. He was ready for any challenge that lay ahead, and that made him feel freer than ever. The breath of life was waiting for him up ahead, in the unwritten missions, in the encounters yet to come. The phrase, "the next mission awaits," was not just a message, it was a promise of good things to come. An open ending, but not the end of dreams and hopes. Freeman continues his journey, with a heart full of passion and a determined gaze, looking toward the future where wonders await. The stories go on, and in the vast world outside, surprises will always happen, creating new chapters in his life and the lives of others. Thank you for joining us on the Legendary Narratives channel through the emotional story of Marcus Black Warrior Freeman and the Delta Force team. From the heart-pounding battles along the Rio Grande to their unwavering courage in the Tucson desert, they fought for justice, protecting the innocent from the threat of Los Lobos. Their spirit of teamwork, sacrifice, and determination is a flame that inspires us all. Please leave a like if you're moved by this journey, and don't forget to subscribe to the Legendary Narratives channel to catch the next legendary stories. Comment right away to share your thoughts on what impressed you the most. Thank you, wonderful viewers, for always supporting us. We'll see you again in new, inspiring, and meaningful journeys.